students, we have learnt about rainfall and rivers in our last class. Now, let's go ahead and learn about tanks and groundwater. The tanks and the groundwater are the other important sources of water, just like the rivers. In the olden days, the people tried to use the runoff rainwater by construction of tanks for storing the water.
The evidences of building tanks and using them for agriculture dates back to the times of the megaliths. Building the tanks.
A large number of tanks were built by the Kakatiyas, Vijayanagara kings and Nayakas in the villages in Telangana and Rayalaseema regions. These tanks helped in the growth of agriculture in these areas. Students, even now you can see at least 1 or 2 tanks in these villages. Students, now let's have a look on how the tanks were built in the olden days. The tanks were built either by the kings or sometimes by the military leaders or Nayakas, or many a times the people of the village. Did you know the people in every village remembered those who were responsible for the building of tanks through stories or festivals or temples?
The tanks were usually made by constructing a strong stone wall across a small stream so that a large lake could be formed on one side. The people in the village made contributions to meet the expenses and labor while constructing the tanks.
The villagers maintained these tanks by repairing the bund of the tank and cleaning the silt from the tank bed. In addition, care was taken to see that the water was not dirtied or diverted. A person was appointed for the regulating the use of water from the tanks. Students, can you make a list of the ways in which these tanks would have helped the people? Yes, the tanks were main source of drinking water for the villagers as well as the animals in the village.
In addition to being the main source of drinking water, the tanks were used for irrigating the agricultural lands. These tanks were helpful even during drought years for cultivating at least a single crop. These tanks proved to be helpful to the farmers in cultivating at least a single crop during drought years. The tank beds were also used for raising crops when the level of water decreased during the non-rainy seasons. While the tanks helped to raise the water levels in the nearby wells, they have also helped in avoiding runoff rainwater and the erosion of topsoils. Silt gathered in village tanks and lakes was spread evenly on the field before sowing in order to improve soil fertility. Decline of tanks in current ages. While the tanks helped to raise the water levels in the nearby wells, they have also helped in avoiding runoff rainwater and the erosion of topsoils.
Hence, all the people of the villages benefited through these tanks. Do you think there are as many tanks now as they were in the olden days? The tanks have been widely neglected in the last 20 to 30 years, which have led to a decline in the number of tanks and eventually breaking down of the tanks. Can you guess what may have been the reasons for the decline of the tanks? Yes, the neglected repair works, removing silt from these tanks, which were not done regularly, are the main reasons for the decline of the tanks in the present times.
The lands where the tanks are situated are gradually being converted into agricultural lands or plots for building houses. This has resulted in an increasing number of uncared and dry tanks all over our state.
While these tanks have been uncared, the people have begun to dig much deeper tube well at high expenses.
The tube wells, unlike the tanks, will not benefit everybody in the village. It will be beneficial only to some, and moreover, they deplete the water resources in the long run.